let's get one of these champions in here. Representative Clint Hostetler out of Twin Falls. There he is, sir. How are you? Can you hear us okay?
Yes, sir. How about on your end?
Yes, yes. You look and sound great, sir. Uh,
Thank you.
well, hey, congratulations. I was talking at the top of the show here about people getting involved, and you are one of these classic citizen legislators here who said, you know what, I think I've had enough of what's going on. I think God has put me in a position to run. And not only did you run in a primary against an incumbent, but the margin was pretty big, wasn't it, Representative?
Yeah. It was a good chunk. I want to say 69 to 41, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty hefty
30,
mandate, my
but I
friend.
don't know my math. Brain, legislative, beginner week. But
Yeah. Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. So it's your first week. It's Thursday. It's your first week in the Capitol. You must have a fire hose of information coming at you, but you're coming out strong as well. You submitted a bill for school choice. You were in the State Affairs Committee this morning with that BSU women's volleyball resolution. So yeah, give us a little bit of taste of what it's been like there your first week.
Well, as I tell most people, it's been pretty daunting and overwhelming. The sheer level of emails to try and catch up with, and meetings right off the bat has been over the top. And so I'm playing catch up, and it's a constant feeling of playing catch up. But luckily, I've had enough support group around me and elders, if you will, experienced, seasoned veterans that have kind of come along beside me and helped me and warned me in advance. But it's been pretty fun. The state affairs has been pretty intense already. We're about 3 days in, I should say, and watching the amount of, like I said, intensity already as we've begun has been pretty fun. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, very good. Okay, so we know school choice, something surrounding school choice is a big thing this year, and you submitted a bill yesterday or the day before. It popped up on the legislative site that is looking for tax credits for families who wish to not have their children be in public school, but to use the money that would have been used on their child in public school to be used elsewhere. Can you walk us through your thoughts on this bill and what you think and what kind of signal it sends to the rest of the legislature?
Well, really what we're calling it, and you've probably heard this quite a bit, it's the phrase used by many legislators is we want to consider this, or I want to consider this the gold standard. And what it does is really allows parents to have access to their own tax dollars. Imagine that, to decide the best route for their children. Most of us believe, at least on the conservative side, that we know how to educate our children the best. And of course, we know how best to utilize our own money and especially our tax dollars. So what this bill does is essentially it sets a limit or an ability for a tax rebate for anybody who wants to take advantage of that money, and it sets a limit of $9,500 per student. And I won't get into the details of why that was chosen, but if you look at the level of cost of educating our child, depending on where you're at in the state, and go anywhere from 7,500 to sometimes 11 or 12,000. So this was a good number. 250 million was the set amount allocated for this program or rebate system, if you will, and it does not pull from the education fund specifically. So that's a good thing. You hear one of the biggest qualms or griefs, if you will, of the education system and people that have a full investment into the education establishment always worry about funds coming out of this. But this is really our tax dollars back to parents who want to utilize it best for their children. So a lot of people are worried about that large cost. But I mean, we're sitting on a good little chunk of rainy day funds here, and it's really not our money here at the state. It's our citizens' money. So
Yeah.
for them to take that money and put it into any type of education that they want for their children is the best bet. Now, if you look at programs like this across the nation, you'll notice that not all of everybody runs to jump into these systems, and not everybody takes the full amount allocated. Some homeschoolers or people that want to start homeschool pods, whatever, any type of options aren't necessarily going to take that full 95. And with that, you hear people then also talk about responsibility, right, or accountability. Well, I trust our parents. And there is the same accountability that any business would have if they were making a write-off. You may be subject to having to verify with receipts and things of that nature. So it's a really pared down, clean bill. And I could go on, but I hope that gives you a good foundation of the premise and the idea.
Yeah, no, you outlined it very well, and I think one of the things that I think people need to continue to wrap their head around is the fact that if parents are sending their children to public school, the public school, like you mentioned, may spend anywhere from $7,500 to $1,100, of state, federal, and however many dollars are out there to educate that child. And so all this type of program is doing is saying, okay, we're gonna let that money that would have educated your child be spent over here if the parent chooses that that's the best route for their child. And I think that philosophy is the thing that needs to be repeated over and over and over again, because the state right now has a constitutional mandate to educate children K through 12. And so you're simply saying, let's have the money follow the child. I mean, that's the big statement here, right?
Yeah, I mean, parental choice, school choice, call it what you want. It's our own tax dollars back in the pockets of our parents who know their child best, know how to educate best, and really have the most vested interest, right? I can spout off all these cliches, but they're cliches for a reason, because they're true. And, we want to find ways to, I don't want to use the term blow up a broken system. And I believe most of us think our education system is a broken system. And this is not an indictment towards our teachers. I love our teachers. My mom was a teacher for over 30 years. Most of them really care about the kids, and that's what it takes. And
Yes.
And they understand the pitfalls of a system, a heavy bureaucratic administrative state that's really top down from the federal level. So by injecting some sort of a shakeup, and of course, everybody's worried about that from the inside of that kingdom falling, but from the outside, looking into really what is a broken system, we cannot get away from that. We need to find a way to shake it up. And everybody's worried about shaking up an already broken system. But we need to do that, because by pushing some levers, and unfortunately, you have to use a little bit of force to cause ingenuity and opportunity and change for the better. And that's what we're hoping this bill can do. Now, granted, I filed it as a personal bill, which means it goes right into the hopper and it stays there, because I wasn't under any illusion that this bill right off the bat, I'd be able to have a hearing and get through. So what this does is it opens a narrative. It gives the ability to point to this gold standard when we're hearing kind of illusions of grandeur from the top down, as we heard the other day about school choice, with a limited amount of money for a specific group of people with a lot of accountability. To me, that's code for we want to bolster an already broken education administration and call it school choice. This is going, I believe, if we can get this moving and get some eyes on it and maybe modifications here or there, we can re-RS it as the best option for school choice and give some parents some hope, to pull out of a system, once again, that's probably not working right now for children. We can go into statistics and all that good stuff, but that's what our hope is. And we just can't thank guys like yourself and institutions and organizations such as yourself for really helping us shine a light on legislation like this, and really concepts and ideas that are free market in principle and liberty based, and really put the responsibility and the impetus back on our families and our parents, and most importantly, our children. If you listen to our education system and the establishment, it always comes back to, but our schools, our administrations, our teachers, this, that, and the other, you rarely hear what is best for the children. We believe this is best for our children in the future.
Yeah, fantastic. Well put, man. I'm glad, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're there. This is fantastic. We knew this is what we were getting ourselves into. And we first spoke maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago or so on the phone. I remember the parking lot. I was in a hamburger parking lot somewhere. Anyway, well, Clint, that's fantastic, and I love that you outlined what your plan here was in filing it as a personal bill. I know we're kind of getting in the weeds here a little inside baseball, but what you're doing is basically just, you're setting the bar, you're showing the gold standard, as you say, you're showing kind of like, hey, look, this is where we want to go, and I'm gonna bust down the door and just kind of like open it up and say, hey, let's start talking about it. And so I imagine, wherever we land on this situation, you are all for at least like, let's just get going, let's get something going that helps put this stuff back in the hands of parents. So I applaud you for that.